do I know there's a God? Well, I can look at evil. The world today is so conflicting, and there's so much bad stuff going on. I know there's something out there that's greater than that. If, friends, that is what it is, if humanism is right and that's just a human nature, we're lost already. But there is an entity behind what's going on with manipulative plans to get us to conform. And he's not coming to your house because he's too busy. He's an angel. He's only in one place at the one time, let me tell you right now. He doesn't care less. But all he has to do is influence philosophy, understanding, the age, the way we think, and he's done his job. It's all over. Ephesians 6:12 says, for we do not, and thinking of that, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. It's not people, but against the principalities. These are high things. Powers, rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Do you know, to me, this is not, some people make this demon powers. I believe this is thought patterns. I believe this is the way people think and how they process thoughts sometimes. Principalities in our minds, we have to get rid of some of this stuff. We have to deal with this in our lives so we can move forward. And we are stuck sometimes in the thinking of the age and can't move forward. I've got to get moving. 2 Timothy 4:10. Here's an interesting passage. Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present age. Wow. You can actually love the age so much that you forsake who God is. And lots of people have done that. They've seen the church and the nature of the church, but they're smarter. They've got their ideas and their philosophies, missing the point. The churchless generation who don't get what God is doing. And so Paul knew what it was like to see a person leave him, not over offense with him, not over problems between each other, but listen, the age captured him. The love of the age. All that it stood for. I love this age. What its thinking process is. Do you know some people are more enamored with evolution and science, more enamored with the thoughts of non-Christian people, more enamored with all this stuff than coming to church and getting wisdom from God. Phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this age is the stuff that hinders us from knowing God's will. Here it is in Titus says, the grace of God to us says no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live a self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. What is the grace of God for? See, some people say grace. Oh, grace is wonderful. See, I had a very small life and religious life and outside of grace. I lived under the law. But now under grace, I can do all things. And God doesn't mind because I'm under grace. I can booze more. I can be more immoral. I can do... That's not what grace is for, not according to that passage. Grace is about this age and helping you not live by this age. Grace is saying no to this age. Grace is saying we're not accepting what this age does. We're not listening to all that rubbish on television that says this is all right, this is how you do relationships now. These words have changed, this is what you do. But people accept that as the age and say, well, I'm accepting that age. But grace says no to this age. That's what grace is for. I'm saying no, a big fat no to all it is. Galatians 1:5 says Jesus died so we could be free from the culture and age, and he gave himself for our sins to rescue us from the present evil age according to the will of God and our Father. Isn't that cool? See, Jesus died for this age. He died for his age. He died for this age. And friends, if we have another 1,000 years, he died for that age too. He died to confront that age. It's foolishness, it says. The cross is foolishness to the world, but to us it is all wisdom and understanding. You're sitting here this morning and you're thinking probably, what is all this Jesus stuff? And what is this church all about? And what is these guys getting on here and talking all these ideas about Christianity? Let me help you. Jesus died for your age, for where you're at right now, for the place you find in, for the battles you have in your mind and the battles you have in your heart and that sense of lack of purpose. So maybe you have a great purpose, but even that can be of the age. But Jesus died to bring you back into the right course of action. And I tell you what, before we leave this place today, I hope you get an opportunity to understand the power of what Jesus is saying in your life. Because that's why he died. For this age. That's the beauty of Jesus. It wasn't a historic thing that happened 2,000 years ago. It was something that meant everything today in our age. Now, you know, how do we deal with this in real terms? How do we understand this? And so I want to give you, I mean, I could end here, but I just want to go one step further and talk about an example. The Bible tells us that actually the Old Testament is an example to us, New Testament people, of how some things worked. And I was reading the other day again about Egypt and the Promised Land. Now, Egypt is an age. It's an age where the nation of Israel was under heavy bondage, heavy slavery, and they were controlled by the Egyptians. It was a terrible time in their history, actually. And so they're caught up in this moment. But then you see this powerful revelation of the Promised Land, which I believe is the will of God to us. The Promised Land to us is the will. That's where God's wanted them to be. That's God's will for them. So they're living in the age, but they need to get into the will. See what I mean? They're living in Egypt, but they need to get into the Promised Land. They're living in the age. They're living in constant. And they are so bound by that age that at one moment when they're just about to be freed, they sort of say, oh, actually they get freed and they're wandering in the desert. Let's go back to the age. Let's go back to Egypt, they say. Amazing thing. But there's a Pharaoh there. And this Pharaoh is conflicting all of this and making it very difficult. And 4 times Moses goes to Pharaoh about releasing his people from the age into the Promised Land or the will of God. And this is what he says. In Exodus chapter 8:25, he says this: you can go and sacrifice, but stay in the land. Stay in the age. You can sacrifice. Hey, guys, it's good to be a Christian. It's good to be, involved in the church, but stay in the age. Don't lose the power of the age, because it's important that you get your head still stuck in that. What a tragedy that we have Christianity that's still stuck in the age. This is why people don't discover the will of God for themselves, because they're still stuck in the age. The second time is Exodus 8:28, and it says, you can go and sacrifice, but don't go too far. So, don't get too extreme in this. Don't feel you have to leave anything. The pattern is fine. Just move a little bit away, but not too far. The next time he says this is Exodus 10:8, where he says, you can go, but who are you taking with you? Who are you connected to? Because this age is about people. People are what influences you the most. As somebody once said, the 2 most things that will influence you the most is the books people write and the people you meet. And friends, let me tell you, your connections, let me help you here and say this, sometimes to get out of the age, we need to disconnect from people who are in the age. And do you know what that includes today? Social media. Some forms of social media. Let me tell you, let me help you and say this. I can say it right out now. There is some stuff out there. Do you want me to tell you what? Facebook, things like this, all this stuff. This is a great tool for us as church people, but if that's the way you see the age, you're going to be down a slippery slope. And I've got so many friends. Really? Have you? Have you really? Will you come and live in the house and you'll find, hear that story there today? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's the stuff. But the age says, no, have a plastic one. Have a TV screen one. Don't worry about all that. That's what the age says. So he immediately starts getting into social networking here and deals with who are you connected to. He says, just take the men in the end. But here's the best one, Exodus 10:24. Then Pharaoh commanded this Moses and said, go worship the Lord. He's pretty angry now. He's ticked off because they've had plagues of frogs and locusts and flies and other things falling down from heaven. Even your women and children may go with you, so you can do that now. Only leave your flocks and herds behind. Let me tell you something powerful about the will of God. When it comes to separation from this age, it's always about the things you have. Because the power of this age is all tied up in our things. The materialism of life. Now, friends, I love having things, but if that's the way I think about them and that's my age, I've missed the point. So this is what happens. Look at this. Verse Exodus 10:26, I love this. Our livestock too must go with us. Watch what he says. Not a hoof is to be left behind. We have to use some of them in worshiping the Lord our God. And until we get there, we will not know what we are to use to worship God. See, Moses understood to get out of the age, you had to bring everything you have with you into the will of God, including your goods. Including your goods. You might get a little bit ticked off sometimes with Pastor Cole taking offerings and talking about finance. Can I help you here? Today in our culture, in our age, that's how we trade. And friends, you ain't leaving nothing until you've dealt with that one. You're not going to live in the will of God till you can open your wallet and understand that's not mine anymore, it belongs to God. You can't live in the will of God till you look at your house and your property and can't say, it's not mine anymore, because I don't know how I'm going to worship God without it. I need it for the worship of God. All of that is part of my worship, and if I'm living in the age, I'm going to separate that and put it over there and keep this tiny little thing of a 2-hour meeting in church, and all that goes over there. That's living in the age. What a thought, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what is the will of God? I come basically back to this. I come round and I'm full circle back here. How can I defeat the age? Well, I've got to have something else. I've got to have something greater than the age, something that's more powerful than the age, something that's a sword to the age, something that drives a stake in the heart of the age, something that says I've had enough of the age. Here it is, right here, this thing. Now, friends, all you have to do is start engaging in it and doing what it says. In your marriage, in your family, in bringing up kids, in your finances, in your home, and you're doing the will of God, because it's all found in there.